It is Tuesday, July 1st, 2025. Welcome to another edition of Baseball Today, presented by Mountain Dew. If you're looking for a refreshing citrusy kick this summer, go and grab a Mountain Dew. I am your host, Trevor Plouffe. That is my main man, Dalton Feely, who's probably more happy about this Mountain Dew sponsorship than anybody in the world. Producer Dan along for the ride as well. Dalt, my man, people are clamoring for you. They're saying you're Wally Pipping Rose, but today is your last day on the show. We got a couple of other guests lined up this week before next Monday we get Rosie back. So thank you for filling in. How are you doing today? Is there anything you want to say to the fans?
It's been an honor. I've had a blast talking some ball, and I appreciate all of you guys listening. You guys make the show even better by listening and engaging with us. So our community is great. I appreciate you so much. Rosie's back Monday. Everything's back to normal, but I appreciate you guys allowing me to be hopping on here and talking some ball for you.
You know, we always start with a tip of the cap. So I'm going to give my first tip of the cap to you because you've done a great job and a little bit behind the scenes stuff here, pulling back the curtain a little bit. You know, we have to come up with a show and create questions every single night for it. And between producer Dan, intern Sawyer, and now Dalton helping out on it, I think we did a good job in Rosie's absence. So thank you, and Dan and Sawyer, for doing that. Let's get to our real tip of the cap. This one's for the boys. The boys of summer out in Pittsburgh. This young man, it was his birthday, and his friends wanted him to get him the ball, and Brian Reynolds tossed him a ball. And look at the reaction. Just absolutely fired up. And this, honestly, is what baseball is all about. I got a little bit of this, Dalt, when I was in Minnesota. We were at this event. It was like a party at this golf course, and we brought a wiffle ball bat. And you should have seen how fired up these kids were. There was probably like 40 kids out there playing wiffle ball together, and it just brought everyone together, man. So I love this dang sport. I really do.
You nailed it, dude. This is what baseball is all about. I mean, these kids are going to go into either their camp or school, whatever it may be, so hyped out, talking about this moment. And this kid's not going to forget about what Brian Reynolds did, just tossing a ball on his birthday. And I think the best part about all of this, right, is the kids, his friends, they are so happy for him to get that ball. It's such a great moment. It's an uplifting moment. It's really cool to see. And that's awesome. That's what baseball's all about.
All right. We're going to get the show started. And this first one, producer Dan does not like it. He doesn't like this topic at all because yesterday the Yankees dropped the series opener in Toronto after a sixth inning full of sloppy play, bad defensive mistakes. The Blue Jays are now just 2 games behind in the AL East, and the Rays are sitting 1.5 games out, and Dan is showing you some Anthony Volpe throws there. My question to you, Dalt, is how sure are we that the Yankees are going to be able to hold on in the AL East and repeat as division champs?
Well, it's funny because going into the season, I had my concerns, especially after Garrett Cole got hurt, about how is this rotation going to hold up, this new forming rotation? How are some of these younger, now getting older players going to perform in the lineup? But I will say, I know the Blue Jays and Rays have been very hot and are creeping up in the AL East. 2 games and a 1.5 games within the Rays and Blue Jays. It's very tight. That said, I still feel pretty confident the Yankees are going to win the AL East, and it's no disrespect to the Blue Jays or Tampa Bay Rays, who are playing very good ball, especially the Rays have been like the best team since June or the end of May. But that said, the Yankees have kind of had their struggles in June of late. Last year, they were 13-14. Excuse me, they were 14-13 last year in June. They still ended up winning 94 games and going to the World Series. This year, 13-14. So just flip those numbers around. I don't know why they struggle in June. It's just been a pattern for this team. I think they're okay. Their core 3 in pitching right now between Fried, Carlos Rodon, Clark Schmidt has been pretty darn dominant. Will Warren is starting to break out. I think the biggest concern I do have for this team, though, is that lineup. I think Yankee fans, and I think a lot of Yankee fans would agree with me when I say, I think there's a lot of question marks now between Anthony Volpe and Austin Wells. Are these the right guys playing shortstop and catcher? Volpe, obviously known for more of his defense, has had lots of defensive struggles at shortstop this year. Austin Wells, his bat has not gotten going since like the first half of last year. So there's question marks there. But Trev, you know me, numbers guy. Love me my numbies, right? I have a fun little question for you. In June, among 195 batters with 80-plus plate appearances, right? Who do you think has the highest K percentage in baseball as a hitter?
In all of Major League Baseball?
Out of these 195 batters.
Ellie De La Cruz.
And that's a great guess. But it's Aaron Judge, the captain. It's Aaron Judge. 36.2% of the time he is struck out in the month of June. It has been a struggle. And basically for the Yankees, their formula is when Aaron Judge goes, we go. When Aaron Judge doesn't go, if the other guys aren't stepping up, we're going to falter a little bit. Goldschmidt's disappeared in the month of June too. The Yankees, 24th in K percentage as a team in June. There's been a lot of struggles. I do think they break out of it, but I do understand why we should be having this conversation because the Blue Jays and Rays are playing good ball while the Yankees are teeter-tattering.
Yeah, so I'm with you. I am mildly concerned for the Yankees, and if it wasn't for Aaron Judge being like Aaron Judge, if he was just a regular old great hitter, I'd be very concerned with this Yankees lineup and the lack of production outside of homers. That they're right in the middle of the league in runners hitting with runners in scoring position as far as OPS. The fact that they have Aaron Judge, though, who is going to go down as one of the best right-handed hitters of all time, like that helps helps a lot.
A
Like,
little bit.
I'm just, you know what I'm saying? Like, even if you
Yeah.
who's another great right-handed hitter in the game right now? You know, name anybody. I'm not picking them over Aaron Judge. Aaron Judge can carry this team. So yes, if he's struggling offensively, which is going to happen a few times a year, you're going to see the Yankees not play their best ball. The reason I'll give the Rays and the Jays, a chance in the AL East is because their brand of ball, I think, is more sustainable and consistent. They're going to have bad months as well, and a lot of it really does come down to who's hitting with runners in scoring position. Yeah. But I think the Rays, who are a team that can steal a bunch of bags, who are one of the better base running teams, they have a better defense. Like they're going to be in more games, throughout the year. So when you're in more games, you have the chance to win more games. I still think I still think I see the Yankees winning the AL East, but this isn't like the Rays are 1.5 games back. The Jays are 2. They're playing each other right now. It might be, there might be a point even before the All-Star break where the Yankees aren't in first place in the AL East. That doesn't mean they're not going to end up winning the AL East. I think they have the overall better roster, and their starting pitching has been great. So it's concerning, but I do think the Yankees are going to end up winning the AL East. I'm rooting for the Rays. The only reason, you're a Yankee. No, I'm rooting for the Rays. Number one, because I like chaos, and I think the Rays winning the AL East is pure chaos. And number two, I picked them to be in the playoffs. Those dang Red Sox are really screwing my preseason predictions up, but I like the Yankees as a team. I have the same concerns as you. I do think the other teams have more ways to win baseball games, but Aaron Judge is obviously the X factor in all of this.
If you were giving a percentage right now, Plouffe, what would you say percent chance Yankees win the American League East?
75.
I'm right around, I was going to say 80%. Yeah. I and it's nothing against the other two teams. I just think the Yankees find ways with Aaron Judge leading the charge.
Okay. Let's move on to question 2, and this one's a little interesting. Chase Burns, his second career outing lasted just a third of an inning as he gets lit up in Boston. And then we went and saw Jarren Duran talking to the on-deck batter, and we're thinking, is he maybe tipping his pitches?
This was prior to Wilyer Abreu's at bat. Duran talking to Wilyer. Of course, they're covering the mouths. That could be what it looks like. That could also be this is what he's doing when he's throwing this and that.
This is happening more and more, Dalt, as these guys are getting shelled. Everyone's concerned with tipping pitches because every team has video guys out there just scouring their latest starts to see if they're doing anything different. My question to you is, should Reds fans have any concern about this, or do you think this was not really happening and he just got hit and it was a bad outing?
I think there should always be concerns. Tipping pitches, like you said, like it is so hard as a pitcher to be consistent with your delivery, pitch by pitch by pitch, with all these different types of pitches that they have in their repertoire. That said, there's, some things on X, on Twitter that were saying, his back foot was different on his fastball versus slider. His wrist on his glove hand was different fastball slider. That level of how high his front knee goes when lifting compared to his fastball slider was different. So all these different things that could or could not be. We can't confirm that. These are just some potential theories on Chase Burns. But I do think the Red Sox did have something, because of note, the outing doesn't start well. Matt McClain makes a big error. Could have been a potential ground ball double play. 2 outs in the inning, no one on. Instead, error happens, first and third, snowballs the inning. But then after Toro hits an RBI single, this is what happens. And I find this, red flags, alarms are siring. Carlos Narvaez, first pitch slider, 98 miles per hour exit velo. Wilyer Abreu, ground out, second pitch, 106.3. Trevor Story, 3-run home run, third pitch, 103. Marcel Meyer, second pitch, change at 101.6 EV. Hamilton, RBI single, first pitch, 104.5 EV. They're early in the at-bat, hitting the ball hard. It didn't matter what pitch was coming. The Red Sox, it seemed like they had a sense of something, and that they knew what was coming out of Chase Burns' hand. Whether it was a tip, whether it was something, I don't know. I think there are concerns because the Red Sox definitely showed the result in the scoreboard, putting up 7 runs in that first inning. Hopefully the Reds can coach him up, because we saw Burns in his first outing be absolutely electric. Trev, I do want to ask you, because you are the former player, you've probably seen instances of tipping pitches during your playing days. Do you think Chase Burns was tipping himself, or was there something else going on that caused this outing to go awry?
Yeah, I mean, there was some differences in the windup. I went back and looked at the video. There's some differences in the windup, specifically on his off-speed pitches. He was just a little quicker, body crunched a little bit more with his leg lift. And the fastball was more methodical. It was smoother, and his off-speed pitches were a little quicker and a little tenser. And you can pick that stuff up. I don't think, though, Dal. I think there was some stuff going on, and that's what Duran was relaying to Abreu there. I think he was relaying that, but I don't think all of those hits were a byproduct of that, because it was still that's not necessarily an easy thing for every player to pick up. Some guys are better at it than others. Some guys don't really like it. I believe it was the Narvaez ball off the wall that was up. The Trevor Story slider that was up. So the pitches weren't great either. So I think he was doing some things you could pick up, but I don't know if all of those were because he was tipping. I think there was a little bit of bad location there as well. And that's kind of how it usually goes. I mean, very few times do you just have something definitive where everyone's locked in on it. That's just not how it works. Again, some guys' eyes are trained better than others. Some guys are able to focus on a pitcher and not, his hand, they're able to take their eyes somewhere else and then get back to the release point. Some guys can't do that. So again, it's when people are like, oh, yeah, he's tipping his pitches and everyone's on it. It's just not how it works. So I saw some things. They'll clean it up. I actually talked to Rocco Baldelli about this when I was out there calling games for the Twins during his media scrum. And I asked him, I said, do you think now, with everybody employing somebody to scour the videos, do you think tip pitching is becoming more frequent or less frequent? Because you have guys looking at their own pitchers trying to make sure they're doing it. And he says he thinks it's less frequent now than it was before, just because everyone is looking at themselves every single day. And I don't know if I necessarily agree with him. I think it might be just around the same. Because these guys now, here the difference between pitchers now and maybe pitchers even when I played, which is starting to get a long time ago.
You said it, not me.
Yeah, guys are so much more concerned with just their pitch than holding a runner, than slide stepping, than making sure they're not tipping. They're like, you know what? I'll just throw my best pitch, and I'm really that's my number one focus, is making sure I'm throwing my best pitch and with conviction and all that pitcher talk, all those things they like to say. They're not concerned with the runner, or they don't want to tip pitches. But I'm just saying, the guys, they don't get late. They're not lazier now with all that stuff. But the primary focus right now is always, I'm going to strike this guy out, and I'm going to throw my best pitch. So I guess in the end, do I think Chase Burns was tipping his pitches? I think Duran saw something. And as I looked at the video, I saw something as well. You can go back and look at it if you want. I think On his fastball, he was more methodical and smoother with his delivery. And with his off-speed pitches, he was a little bit more sped up and a little more crunched up with his delivery. And you can see those things. Again, I also think the location played a part of it. So he'll go back, they'll look at the video. I don't think Reds fans need to be, overly concerned. This is going to happen throughout a career as long as he cleans it up. And that's all it is, Dalton.
It should be fine. And off of that, Terry Francona, first thing he says after the game about when he was asked about Chase Burns being tipping his pitches, he threw some pitches that caught a lot of the plate, and they were looking for it. Like, plain and simple, bad pitches, bad location. It's major league players. They're going to mash.
You know what else kind of mashes, Dalt? Mountain Dew. And we want to thank Mountain Dew for sponsoring this episode. With bold flavors and a refreshing citrus kick, Mountain Dew is a perfect drink for any occasion, whether it's beach days, boat day, out on the golf course, going to the ballpark, or just about anything in between. Dalt, you know that for sure. We have Mountain Dew all in our warehouse, and the guys that want to get a little pick-me-up, a little thirst quenching, they go straight to the refrigerator and grab a Mountain Dew. It's a perfect pairing. The warehouse and Mountain Dew is the perfect pairing, Dalt. So the next time you're chilling on the beach, out on the water, on the golf course, or at the ballpark, or really doing anything, as long as you're hanging out with friends, the refreshing citrus kick of Mountain Dew is the perfect pairing. Kind of like me and you, Dalt, the perfect pairing. So if that's what you're looking for, grab a Mountain Dew. Let's move on, because we're looking at the calendar, Dalt. As I mentioned at the beginning of the show, June is gone. May's way gone. April is history. We're now in July. The calendar is finally flipped. We're at basically we're at the halfway point of the season. So my question to you is, what team is this a make it or break it month for?
Trev, it's my last episode. If I didn't go home one more time, I'm going out with a bang, brother. It is the Arizona Diamondbacks. And I mean, I do think, obviously I see it from a microscopic standpoint because I watch this team. I see a majority of their games. So I'm locked in on the Snakes. But that said, I do think across baseball, the Diamondbacks are a very intriguing team coming into July. And it starts plain and simple. Mike Hazen, general manager of the Arizona Diamondbacks during the White Sox series, was getting interviewed by the media. And there was questions about, hey, what are the Diamondbacks going to do? Have teams started calling about some of these potential free agents? And Mike Hazen said, the Sharks are in the water. Of course, teams are calling about these players. That's basically why this month is going to determine the Diamondback season for how 2025 is going to be looked upon in its history. Right now, the Diamondbacks are 42-42. They're 21-21 at home. They're 21-21 on the road. They're 11-11 in their last 22 games. You know what we call that in the industry, Trev? Mid. 500 ball. And you know what? In the National League, right now, that's not going to play because there are so many good teams. So, the Diamondbacks in July, why this all matters. If they sell, that is the biggest question here. If they sell, Zach Gallen, who I know is having a down year, but is still former top 5 Cy Young candidate over 2 years, Merrill Kelly, Josh Naylor, Geno Suarez, Shelby Miller, and Jalen Beeks, left-handed reliever. Everyone wants one. All free agents at the end of the year. Diamondbacks schedule in July. They have 3 more games with the Giants. They have 3 with the Royals. The Padres, 4 games set at San Diego. The Angels, Cardinals, Astros, Pirates, and then the Tigers. A lot of good teams are going to be playing against these Arizona Diamondbacks in July. If the Diamondbacks fall out of it in this National League West, and heck, the National Wild Card spots, they have a lot of intriguing players, and buyers are licking their chops if the Arizona Diamondbacks fall out of it because there are a lot of good players that are serviceable that can help other teams make a run. They have a make or break month for themselves, and they have a make or break month for the rest of the league because, heck, there could be a lot of good players on the market.
I mean, the Diamondbacks is the right answer to this question. I'm glad you picked it. Really, you could go to any of the teams that are on the cusp of the wild card and say this is a make or break month for them because, whether you have impending free agents or not, you got bullpen pieces, and those bullpen pieces are the pieces that teams really like to move, and really teams covet, guys that can go and be high leverage for you, or you can dream upon, hey, this lefty lane here in September, if we bring this guy in, he can get these guys out. It's really a dreamer's position. You really think you could coach these guys up a lot better because relievers are more apt to making adjustments into new organizations, more so than anybody else. So you're going Snakes. They got some pitching there. I think there's 2 teams that also kind of fall into this category. I don't think any of the other NL West teams really do. I think the Giants and the Padres are going to compete like no matter what throughout the season. I don't really see them selling at all. So I'll go to the American League, and I want to say the Angels. Right now, they're sitting right out of a wild card spot. They're 41 and 42. Yeah, they're in third place in the AL West, but as I mentioned, they're right there in the thick of it in the wild card. And since Swilly's come to the company, I've been nicer to the Angels and Angels fans. Okay, there's no doubt about it. She's now making me have a soft spot in my heart for them. And now, Ron Washington, we're sending him our best. If they want to go on if they want to keep their players and they want to continue to go on a run, they have to do it in July, because they also have some guys that people will be looking to scoop up from them. Some of their starting pitchers, a Tyler Anderson. I'm looking at you, a Kenley Jansen. These are guys that they could flip and get some decent pieces back. But again, they've been playing good ball. They have this young core. You want to give Angels fans something to root for. They really haven't had that in quite some time. So I think my answer is the Angels here. You could even talk about the Red Sox too, because they have young pieces. They still have a little bit of a logjam. If they don't get it going, does that make it more or less apt they're going to sell Jarren Duran? Like, there's been all this talk about where is Jarren Duran? Is he going to be a Red Sox long term? I think this month could kind of determine that. So I'll stick with my initial answer though. With the Angels, you got Kikuchi, Anderson, and Kenley. A lot of teams would like to have those guys. If they continue to play better ball and they have a good July, I don't think it's going to happen. Or at least I hope it doesn't happen. Because again, I think their fan base deserves a summer where their team stays in it and maybe even adds. I don't think that's going to happen, but you never know.
Since 2014, since they made the playoffs, Trev, like Angels fans deserve Angels to be a good team and go for it.
All right, let's move on to the next question. This one is very, very interesting to me. We watched Zach Wheeler toss another gem, 8 shutout innings to lead the Phillies to a series opening win over the Padres in Bryce Harper's return off the IL. It's his first game started since June 5th. Meanwhile, the Padres, they're continuing their push to try to send Manny Machado to Atlanta for the All-Star game. It'd be a 7th career All-Star selection, and we had the broadcast kind of joining in on the fun as well.
Let's get this guy into the All-Star game, right, guys?
Yeah, Manny won the primary. Now it's the general, okay? And let's face it. Let's call it the way it is. Manny Machado is a better third baseman than Max Muncy. All right?
All right, throwing it out there. That's just shots. Max Muncy catching strays. He's like, dude, I got glasses now. Nobody is better than me in the game of baseball, all right? I fixed my stigmatism. Oh, my goodness. But that's not what I'm asking. I'm not going to ask you if Manny Machado is better than Max Muncy, because I think that's a fairly obvious answer. Manny Machado on his way to the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Okay. No doubt about that. My question to you is, we're going to compare him to somebody that's maybe more on par with his trajectory. Both Manny Machado and Bryce Harper are in their age 32 seasons. They're signed through the decade. Big, long. They got long money, Dalt. Unbelievable. You guys better start buying Bitcoin. Both certainly headed for Cooperstown when it's all said and done. My question to you is, which guy would you rather have on your team for the rest of their career?
So when I think of Machado and Harper, I know I said I'm a numbers guy earlier in the episode. Kind of throw that away or put it in your back pocket for now, because I am going a little bit vibe based here. I could change it. I'm a chameleon. I could change a little bit. Machado, we think of him as this great third baseman, defensive. Obviously, he could swing the stick a little bit, but I think his calling card has been his defense. I mean, if it wasn't for Nolan Arenado being in the National League too, man, he could have even more Gold Gloves at third base, which is crazy. Bryce Harper, I think when I think of Bryce Harper, I think of that left-handed power swing. Obviously, former right fielder, plays first base now. We associate these two, great picture that pops up on your screen, of Harper and Machado, because obviously they hit free agency at the same time. They both got their bag. There's a lot of similarities between the two. I think the biggest thing I'm going with here is Bryce Harper. I love Manny Machado. He's one of my favorite players in baseball to watch, especially at third base. But financially speaking, and when players get older, I think it's easier to convert what Bryce Harper's skill set is power hitting left-handed player. First base, let's see if it sticks at first base too. He's been all right at first base, not world beating at first base, but financially speaking, he's making $27 million over the next 3 to 4 years, and then $23 million until 2031, and then he's off the books. Machado, on the other hand, this is my tiebreaker. He makes $25 million next year, $39 million until 2033. It's a lot of green, Trev. And when you're 40, because Machado's going to be 40 at the end of his contract. It's a lot of money for a 40-year-old, and we know those contracts towards the end, they usually don't look pretty. I think Harper's looks a little bit better. I think his skill set translates better as you get older. Sorry, Manny. I'm going with Bryce Harper here.
You bring up the money, and I was hoping to go about this exercise without bringing up the dollar value, because we don't know exactly, what is $39 million going to mean in 2033. That could be nothing. Rob Manfred is getting in with the players right now, telling them they're leaving $2 billion on the table because they're listening to the Players Association leadership. Things are going to get a little messy here. So we really don't know. We know. Obviously, Bryce making less money, that makes him more palatable to people. Manny's contract actually goes a little bit longer than his as well. But here's the thing. Manny Machado, you talked about Bryce being able to play first base and filling in there and doing that. I think Machado could do that easily. I think Machado could win a Gold Glove over at first base. So I think the defensive position will be there for him. If he has to DH, he has to DH. Since 2019, there's a lot of numbers that suggest that Manny has been, a better player than Bryce Harper. Mainly he's been on the field a little bit more. So I think you have to take that into consideration. The counting stats favor Machado because he's played a little bit more. He's only been on the IL, I believe, once in his entire career.
Impressive.
He's a guy. He's a guy. He plays so much. I have a real tough time answering this question because I really do love both these guys. Bryce gets, he's lumped in as this guy that's, this fiery competitor, great teammate, and Machado kind of doesn't have that. But I think that's wrong. I think Machado is a fiery competitor, and I think he is a leader. And one thing that I wanted to bring up, which I think does mean something, the fact that Manny Machado is bilingual and can get down with the Latin dudes, I think means something as far as, being a leader in the clubhouse. I'm not saying Bryce can't do that, and he might even speak a little baseball Spanish. But there is, if you got a guy that can be completely bilingual, it's an asset in the clubhouse, especially a leader like Machado. So I'm trying to this is a roundabout way to answer the question. I'm really not even sure who I would pick, and Rosie would be so mad at me right now.
I would, you know what, Trev, you were getting on me yesterday for this exact same thing. So I'm gonna give it right back. Pick your guy. Let's go. 3, 2, 1.
I think I want Manny Machado.
Okay.
I do. And I don't even know why. I just really, maybe because he's a third baseman, I really enjoy watching him play third base. I know it's not going to last forever. I know that part of his game is not going to be there. I think he could move to first base. I think he could win a Gold Glove over there. He's already apt to DHing. He's done that a lot in San Diego, so that's not going to bother him as well, like it does some guys. I don't know, man. I don't care about the money. Get the money out of here. It's not my money. Let somebody else spend it. I just
fair.
I like watching both these guys play, but when Machado is locked in, there's just something about his swing and the swagger. I don't know. I don't know if that's a good answer or not. It's a really tough. Are you definitively Harper in this?
No.
Okay.
I want more front office brain than anything else in terms of, all right, I think that these players are very similar and comparable, but then my tiebreaker was the money and the length of contract. I think right now, over the last 5 years, I would take Machado over Harper, the past 5 years of play. And a lot of it is going from Harper's injuries during his time in Philadelphia. And Manny's been pretty consistent outside of, I think, missed a few games in 23. Machado is awesome. I just think his skill set is not as favorable moving forward as you get older, where Harper fielding has always been a little bit of a question mark since moving to first base. Not awful, but it's always been a question mark. The bat I've always liked, though he swings and miss a lot. The power has always been there.
Okay, I'm going for my tiebreaker. Even though I said Manny Machado, I'm just checking one thing out, people.
Okay.
All right, let me get my tiebreaker up here, and this is something I feel I feel pretty like this does mean something to me. So hitting with runners in scoring position over your career. Bryce Harper, runners in scoring position over his career. OPS, 968.
Wow.
Okay, let's go to high leverage situations. 901 OPS in high leverage situation. Manny Machado, runners in scoring position in his career. 920
Ooh, it's close though.
OPS. So, okay, both really, really good. In that regard, Bryce Harper's got him a little bit. Manny Machado, high leverage situations. 826 OPS. So Bryce Harper has him a little bit. Runners in scoring position, 2 outs. That's a big one. 888 for Manny Machado. For Bryce Harper, it is 994. It's Bryce Harper. It's always been Bryce Harper. I changed my answer.
It's your show. You're allowed to change your answer. I love it.
Unbelievable. I'm a big clutch guy. I didn't have Bryce having numbers like that. Those are unbelievable numbers.
It's where the stars are made, Trev. Bright lights are shining. Perform, and he does it.
Maybe I was just trying to Stephen A. Smith that one, just say something that nobody agreed with and take Manny Machado. But then I caught myself looking at the numbers. Darn it! I'm never going to be a superstar. Never.
That's not true. We've seen you in the warehouse, Trev.
That's so true. All right, let's move on to our last question. And, I think this one it's interesting, Dalt. We got the All-Star voting going on right now. And I guess I just want to get your take on it. What would you change about the All-Star voting right now? We're seeing a couple fan bases kind of run away with some of these selections. The Dodgers are trying to vote their entire infield in there. That's why we got the Manny Machado versus Muncy shout out on the Padres broadcast. What are your feelings on the All-Star selection and the voting process? Is there anything you want to change?
First off, I give credit to these big market fan bases because they go out and vote and get their guys in. So that's credit to those fans, right? You're rooting for your guy. You're pushing for them to make the All-Star game. That's great. I think the problem with the All-Star game for me with the voting is that sometimes the undeserving player or players get into whether it be a starting role or on the team because of said voting when they don't rightfully deserve so. And my biggest example, I did mention James Wood yesterday, but I think it's ridiculous, right? I'm looking at the NL outfielders, right? You have Juan Soto, sure, great June, numbers are back. Pete Crow Armstrong, amazing. Kyle Tucker, amazing. Ronald Acuna Jr., who's been amazing since been coming back. Injury, obviously, the amount of at-bats are much lower, but I get it too. But the Dodgers outfielders, Pages and Hernandez, both have been very good in their own right, but Teoscar missed some time. And Andy Pages' numbers versus James Wood, man. Like, that is my thing, where it's so obvious, and no disrespect to Andy Pages, who's having a great season. James Wood is a superstar. And Washington should be a bigger market. They should be going out to get this guy into the All-Star game because he frankly deserves it and potentially should start in the All-Star game. Even my guy, Corbin Carroll, who's hurt now, if you compare his numbers, he's been out for like the last 10 days. You compare his numbers to Andy Pages and Teoscar Hernandez's numbers are better. So quite frankly, sure, I give credit to these fan bases for going out to vote for these guys, but I want to see the best players be in the game. I don't care for what team they play for. I think the players who deserve to be at the All-Star game should be there. Plain and simple. I understand that we want to incorporate fans into the voting process so it gets them active, keeping in the game, but I think sometimes it undeservingly gives players spots that should go to others.
So I have a little bit of a different take here. I don't really care. I don't really care about, or I don't want the mid-season All-Star game to actually be the All-Star selection. I think the mid-season game should be, let the fans vote. Players they want to see should be there. I don't want it to be a popularity contest, but like it's kind of that anyway. So just right. I'm okay with how it is for the mid-summer game. I do think we should focus our attention to after the season to really determine who the all-stars of the league were. Instead of having 2.5 months of great ball and saying I'm an all-star, and then somebody that puts up, a full 6 months, maybe started out a little bit slower, but the last, 3.5 months of the season was very consistent and got it going. I think the guys at the end of the season, that's when we should really, that's the all-star selection that should matter. I know we have the all MLB team, but That's not on your baseball reference page. What's on your baseball reference page, the thing that guys reference when they're done playing, I was an all-star, that's 2.5 months of baseball. You were a first half all-star. And I think we should really change the way we think about it and say, let's pick the actual all-star team that means something at the end of the year. That's how I feel. I've always felt that way. If you want it to be a popularity contest in the middle of the summer to showcase the stars of the game, great. No problem doing that. But when you're talking about, I don't know if it affects your arbitration, but it definitely like gives you power in your career when you're an all-star. I think we should be taking into consideration after the season. That should mean way more than something at the middle of the season.
Trev, can I be honest with you? 1000% agree. I have been a big component of the MLB All Team having more weight to it because exactly, dude. Like half the year, it's great if you have a first half of the season. You can have a horrendous second half of the season. Like the whole year, 162, or depending on how much you play, should be dictating if you get this credential, if you will, whether it's considered an all-star, MLB All-Team. Like that's the biggest thing. My background, prior to John Boy Media, I worked in football for years, and they have the All-Pro, which is voted upon by the NFL writers, and it's for the entire year. That has more weight because it goes through the whole year. Baseball should be the exact same thing. I've never thought about an all-star game at the end of the year, but I like that, Trev. I think that's a very cool idea. Get that going.
I don't want an all-star game at the end of the year, but I just want whoever is an all-star at the end of the year, that should mean more.
The all-star game, middle of the year, players are playing, showcase, whatever. Yeah. Got it. Okay. I still like that. I think that's a great point.
You know what? And I love that our time together on this show is going to end with us agreeing like that. Dalton, you have been so great for this show, obviously our company as well. You're the man. I know all the audience really loves having you on here. Thanks for filling in. And I guarantee we'll see you again, even though Rosie will be back on Monday. There's going to be times where you need somebody, and I'm going to recommend you. Number one, you're my guy. So thank you. I appreciate everyone for sticking around, listening to the episode, like and subscribe. Go get yourself a Mountain Dew.
Let's go.
For my buddy Dalton Feely, for producer Dan Rourke, I'm your host, Trevor Plouffe. We will see you tomorrow on Baseball Today.